AITA for telling my sister I'm done taking care of our dad alone. My own sister called me a monster because I refused to destroy myself twice for our father. 3 years ago, I gave up my entire life to take care of him when she wouldn't. I quit my job, lost my home, and watched my savings vanish while she sent the occasional text from her luxury flat in London. When he got better, I thought I'd finally earned peace. But now that he's sick again, she's demanding I do it all over, as if I owe her my sanity. And when I said no, she told everyone I abandoned him. My name is Samson, and I'm 31. My sister, Charlie, is 35. We grew up in a small town near Leicester with our dad, Pablo, who raised us alone after Mom passed when we were young. He worked as a bus driver his whole life, quiet, patient, and stubborn in his own way. 3 years ago, Dad had a stroke. He couldn't walk properly for months. Charlie lived in London then, buried in her career, so I moved back home. I became his full-time carer, cooking, cleaning, helping him dress, managing his medication. It was exhausting, but I did it because he's my dad. For that entire year, my life was on pause. I missed out on a promotion, my relationship ended, and most of my savings went into keeping things afloat. When Dad finally recovered enough to live independently, I moved out again. Now, 2 years later, it's happening all over again. Dad fell last month. The doctors say he needs constant supervision this time. He can't be left alone. Charlie called me 2 nights ago, her voice sharp but controlled. Samson, we need to figure this out. He can't stay by himself. Maybe you could move back for a bit. I actually laughed. Me? Again? Charlie, I did this for a whole year. I can't go through that again. She said, you're better at this. You know how to manage him. I felt my chest tighten. You mean I already sacrificed my life once, so it's easier for you to ask me again? She sighed. I can't just leave my job. I've got bills too. So do I said. And mental health isn't free either. We argued for 20 minutes until she hung up, saying she expected better from me. The next day, she texted, if you won't help, I'll tell Dad you don't care anymore. That broke me. She knew that wasn't true. Later that night, Dad called from the hospital. His voice was frail but calm. Charlie says you're too busy for me, he said softly. I clenched my jaw. That's not what I said, Dad. I love you, but I can't do it alone again. He was quiet for a moment. I don't want to be a burden. Maybe I should just move into a home. The guilt hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. I went to see him the next morning. He looked smaller somehow, older. We talked for an hour. He said he understood, but I could tell he was disappointed. That night, I sat staring at my phone, wondering if I really was the bad one for wanting to keep my life intact. But things didn't calm down. They got worse. 2 days later, Charlie showed up at Dad's house without telling me. She went through his things, rearranging everything like she suddenly knew what was best. When I walked in, she barely looked up. Oh, so you decided to show up, she said. Don't start, I muttered, hanging my jacket. She didn't stop. You could have helped me sort his meds instead of sulking. I'm not sulking, I snapped. I'm trying to figure out how to keep my job while dealing with all this. Oh right, she said sarcastically, because you're the only one with responsibilities. Charlie, I said, my voice rising. I did this before. You didn't. You don't get to walk in now and act like the expert. She turned to me, eyes cold. Maybe if you'd done it properly the first time, he wouldn't have fallen again. That was it. I lost it. I slammed my hand on the table. Don't you dare blame me for this. You weren't even here. You were living your best life in London while I was spoon-feeding him and changing his bloody dressings. Dad's voice came weakly from the next room. Boys, stop. But neither of us stopped, Charlie shouted back. I worked hard so I could afford to help him later. You chose to play the martyr. Help him later? I yelled. You mean post pictures and talk about how caring you are while I'm the one who actually did it? Her face flushed red. You're unbelievable. You always need to be the victim, and you always need to look good. I shot back. Everything's a performance with you, Charlie. You don't care about helping. You care about being seen helping. The argument went on until Dad yelled so loud it startled us both. Enough, both of you. I can't take this. We fell silent. He was shaking, tears in his eyes. I felt the anger drain out of me all at once. Charlie just stood there, arms crossed, breathing hard. After that, we didn't speak for a week, but it didn't end there. The neighbors started asking questions. Somehow, word got around, probably through Charlie's friends, that I was refusing to take responsibility. People I'd known since childhood looked at me differently. One even said, your dad deserves better. That crushed me. A few nights later, I went to Charlie's flat in London to confront her. She opened the door looking tired, eyes rimmed red from crying. I said, you told people I abandoned him? She didn't deny it. I told the truth. The truth. I laughed bitterly. You twist the truth to make yourself look like a saint. She stepped closer. You think you're the only one who's hurting? You think watching him get weaker from miles away doesn't kill me? Then be here. I shouted. Don't just just talk about it. Actually do something, she shouted back. I am doing something. I found a care coordinator. I'm sorting paperwork. I'm paying for transport. You're paying because you can. I gave up everything. What did you sacrifice, Charlie? A weekend trip? Her hand trembled. You're cruel. And you're selfish, I said. You only care when it makes you feel noble. We both went quiet after that. The silence felt colder than the shouting. When I left her flat, I sat in my car for nearly an hour. I stared at my phone, wanting to call Dad, but I couldn't face it. The next morning, he called first. I heard you went to see your sister, he said softly. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, he sighed. You both think you're right, but all I want is for my children to stop hating each other. I swallowed hard. We don't hate each other, Dad. We just don't know how to forgive. He was quiet for a long time, then said, I wish your mom were here. She'd have known what to say. That broke me. 2 weeks have passed, and everything has spiraled further than I expected. After days of silence, Charlie made a Facebook post about our situation. It said, some people only remember family when it's convenient. Shame when your own sibling refuses to help your sick father. It hit like a grenade. Within hours, the comments started pouring in. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Neighbors from back home. Even Mom's old church friends. People who knew us as children, all with opinions. Poor Charlie. She's always been the responsible one. Some men just don't know loyalty until it's too late. Each word felt like a stone thrown directly at me. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Notifications, tags, private messages. I wanted to throw it against the wall. I messaged her immediately. Delete that. You had no right. She replied almost instantly. Then step up, Samson. I'm done being the only adult here. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The only adult? The only adult doesn't abandon their father for 3 years while someone else wipes his mouth and feeds him soup. I called her, but she didn't answer. I left 3 voicemails. The first angry, the second desperate, the third just silence. She ignored them all. The next morning, I went to the hospital again. Dad seemed distant. His hands trembled a little when he reached for the water glass. I asked quietly, you've seen the post, haven't you? He nodded, avoiding my eyes. She's just scared, he said softly. You both are. But his face told another story. Disappointment, exhaustion, maybe even regret. It was the look of a man who no longer knew which of his children to trust. I drove home furious. Every car horn sounded like Charlie's voice in my head. Step up, step up, step up. That evening, I opened my email and froze. A message from the care coordinator. Your father's transfer to Wexford Rehabilitation Center has been arranged for tomorrow morning. Wexford, near Charlie's flat. She'd done it, moved him behind my back. I called immediately. She picked up after 5 rings. Why didn't you say anything? I demanded. Her voice was cold. Because I knew you'd argue. And I can't wait around for you to decide if you care or not. Don't you dare question that. I snapped. I cared every single day I fed him, washed him, and watched him cry. You swoop in for a few visits and act like a saint. Her tone sharpened. At least I'm doing something now. You walked away. I earned my distance, I yelled. You can't guilt me into doing it again just because it's easier than facing it yourself. We were screaming over each other by the end. She called me selfish. I called her manipulative. She accused me of wanting Dad to die out of convenience. I shouted that she just wanted to look good online. Then, silence. She hung up. That night, Dad texted me for the first time in days. Son, please don't fight with your sister. I just want peace. Peace. As if peace could exist between 2 people holding knives made of guilt. I typed back, I'll try, Dad. I promise. But my hands shook as I hit send because I didn't believe myself. Days passed without word from Charlie. Until last week, when a photo came through, Dad sitting by a wide hospital window, sunlight on his face, holding a cup of tea. He looked fragile, but calm. She wrote, he's settled in. I didn't respond right away. I stared at it for minutes, then hours. Finally, I typed, thank you for taking care of him. She replied, it's not about winning, Samson. It's about doing what's right. I wanted to argue again, to say I did what was right for years while you chased your city life, but I didn't. 3 days later, I drove to Wexford. The air smelled like bleach and overboiled cabbage. I found Dad sitting by that same window, staring at nothing. When he saw me, his expression shifted, relief, then guilt, then sadness. I didn't expect you, he murmured. Yeah, I figured, I said. Didn't think anyone wanted me around anymore. Don't talk like that, he said, frowning. You're still my son. I laughed bitterly. Your son that everyone hates now. He sighed, voice low. Charlie said you shouted at her. She shouted first. She's under pressure, Samson. So am I. I snapped, louder than I meant. I've been under pressure for years, Dad. She just posts about it and gets sympathy. I lived it. He flinched slightly, eyes dropping to his hands. I felt instant regret, but it was too late. The door opened, and there she was. Charlie. She froze when she saw me. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. Visiting my father. Didn't know I needed your permission. You haven't been here in weeks. And whose fault is that? You made sure to paint me as the villain before I could even show my face. She crossed her arms. Because you were disappearing, Samson. You gave up. Gave up. My voice cracked from anger. I gave everything. You gave excuses. We started yelling yelling again, right there in front of Dad, who tried to speak but couldn't get a word in. A nurse walked past, frowning, whispering something about family tension. Charlie pointed at me. You think yelling makes you right? You're pathetic. I stepped forward. Say that again. She did. Louder. You're pathetic. You can't handle responsibility, so you run away. Something in me broke. At least I don't use my father's sickness to feel important. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she looked ready to slap me. Then Dad shouted. Actually shouted. Enough. It was the first time I'd heard him raise his voice since Mom died. The room fell silent. His breathing came heavy and uneven. Both of you, he rasped. You're tearing what's left of this family apart. I turned away, ashamed. Charlie bit her lip, tears in her eyes. Dad's voice softened. All I wanted was to know my children would look after each other when I'm gone. That word, gone, lingered like smoke. Neither of us spoke after that. That night, Charlie texted, I shouldn't have said what I said, but you hurt me too. I typed, deleted, retyped. Finally, I wrote, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. She replied, he's weaker now. Please come visit more. I'll handle the care stuff. Just be his son again. It's been quiet since then. Dad's health is stable, but the silence between me and Charlie feels heavy. Not hateful, just hollow. Sometimes I wonder if this is how families end, not with distance, but with exhaustion. I keep that photo she sent, Dad with his tea, faint smile, sun on his face, saved on my phone. I look at it every night before bed. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was right. Or maybe we were both just too broken to know what right even means anymore. The end. Samson, you're not AITA, man. You carried more than anyone should have to. The weight of your dad's care, the silence, the burnout, the guilt. You didn't run away. You reached a breaking point. There's a big difference between giving up and finally saying, I can't do this alone anymore. You gave your time, your energy, your mental health, all for love. That's not selfishness. That's devotion pushed to its limit. Charlie's reaction? Pure guilt mixed with late regret. It's easier to blame you than to face her own absence. She's rewriting the story because it hurts less than admitting she left you to handle everything. You lived the hard part while she had the luxury of distance. Now that she's finally trying, she wants to look like the hero, even if that means painting you as the villain. But you didn't fail your dad. You were there when it mattered most. You kept him company, comforted him, handled every small crisis no one saw. You just ran out of energy to keep saving everyone, and that's okay. You're human. You deserve rest without shame. So yeah, not AITA. You weren't cold or careless, just tired of drowning while others watched. You loved deeply, acted selflessly, and finally remembered to take care of yourself. That's not wrong. That's real. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for refusing to make my sister's wedding cake after she uninvited my husband? Imagine spending weeks crafting the perfect wedding cake for your sister, sketching every layer, tasting every flavor, pouring your heart into every detail, only to find out she's uninvited your husband. Not because of drama, not because of space, just because her fiancé decided he didn't fit the vibe. My name is Chelsea. I'm 28, and I've been baking professionally for 6 years. Baking has always been my safe space, the one place where I can control everything, create something beautiful, and bring people together. For as long as I can remember, my sister, Astrid, has been a big part of my life. She's 31, engaged to a man named Fabian, and she's been dreaming about her wedding since she was 16. When she asked me to make her wedding cake, I said yes immediately. I even offered to do it for free. I told her, I want this to be perfect for you. I can help you bring your dream cake to life. She cried on the phone, told me how lucky she was to have me, and I believed her. I spent weeks sketching designs, testing flavors, and planning every detail to make the cake not just beautiful, but unforgettable. Then last week, everything changed. She texted me, Chelsea, we're downsizing the wedding. Only immediate family and the wedding party. Fabian says your husband can't come. I stared at my phone for what felt like hours. My husband, Jaden, was supposed to help me deliver and set up the cake. He knows how I work, how stressful a big cake can be, how easily things can go wrong. And now he wasn't invited. I called Astrid immediately. Why would you uninvite him? He's part of this too, I said, my voice trembling with disbelief. She laughed nervously. Chelsea, it's just the guest list. You'll still be there. Don't make a big deal out of it. A big deal. I snapped. You're asking me to make this cake, to work my hands off, and you're telling me my husband can't even attend? He's the one who helps me. He's my support. You can't just erase him because it's convenient for you. Astrid's voice grew sharp. He's not part of the wedding party. It's just easier this way. Stop being dramatic. I felt my chest tighten. Dramatic? I'm not dramatic. You're asking me to give everything I have for your wedding, but you don't even respect my life outside of this. Jaden is part of me, Astrid. If you uninvite him, I won't make the cake. I'll come as a guest, but that's it. There was a pause. Then she said coldly, coldly. You're being petty. Don't make this about your husband. This is my wedding. I'm not being petty, I shouted. You're asking me to create something beautiful for you while insulting the person who helps me breathe when I'm stressed. Do you think I work in isolation? Do you think cakes magically appear? She hung up. I sat there, hands shaking, staring at the sketches I'd made for weeks. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from friends and family trying to calm me down, but I couldn't stop thinking about how she'd just decided to erase Jaden from something so important to me. The next day, Astrid sent another message. If you won't make the cake, I'll tell everyone you're being selfish and sabotaging my wedding. I felt my stomach drop. Sabotaging her wedding? Me? I'd spent weeks designing it, testing flavors, and planning every detail. Yet somehow, I was the villain. I replied immediately, "You're insulting me, Astrid. I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm setting a boundary. You can't ask me to give everything and take away my support." She replied instantly, "Then maybe you shouldn't come at all. We don't need the drama." My hands clenched into fists. I stared at my New York apartment, at the flour and butter and sugar piled up from my cake tests. My safe space felt invaded. My sanctuary was now a battlefield. I called Jaden, trying not to yell, though my voice shook. "She's doing this again," I said. "Astrid thinks she can tell me who I can or can't bring into my own life. I can't believe this." Jaden was quiet for a moment. "I can't fix it, Chelsea. You have to decide for yourself." But I'm not being erased. Not by her. I felt a wave of relief mixed with rage. Relief that he understood. Rage that my own sister couldn't see past her perfect wedding vision. Then it escalated. Astrid insisted we meet at her apartment in Midtown to resolve this like adults. I went, knowing it would be anything but calm. When I arrived, Fabian was there too, leaning against the counter with that smug look he always wears, like he's watching a chess game unfold where only he knows the moves. "Chelsea," Astrid said, arms crossed. "We need to talk." I took a deep breath. "No, Astrid, you need to listen. I'm not making the cake if Jaden isn't invited. I won't erase the person who supports me every day." Fabian scoffed. "Seriously? It's a wedding, not a bakery session. You can leave your husband at home." I blinked, my fingers tightening into fists. "Leave my husband at home? He's not just somebody. He's my partner. He helps me. He protects me. And you think you can just erase him like he's nothing?" Astrid's face flushed. "Chelsea, you're making this about you again." I snapped. "No, Astrid. You made it about me the second you decided my husband wasn't welcome. You're telling me who I can love and who I can bring into my life because it fits your perfect little wedding narrative." Fabian stepped closer, voice dripping with condescension. "You're being ridiculous. Everyone else understands why this is simpler." I couldn't hold back. "Ridiculous? You think it's ridiculous to defend the person who's been by my side every day, helping me carry my work and my life? You are the ridiculous ones. You're acting like a wedding is more important than human decency." Astrid shouted. "Enough, Chelsea. Stop yelling." I yelled back, louder. "Stop acting like I'm the problem. You can't just insult me and expect me to comply. I'm not some robot who exists to make your wedding perfect at the cost of everything I value." Fabian tried to intervene, but I turned on him. "And you smug little man, don't think you get to decide who is worthy of being in my life. You're not in charge here." Astrid slammed her hand on the table. "You're impossible." I leaned forward, my voice shaking but firm. "No, I'm not impossible. I'm human. I have limits, and you're testing them. You want me to betray my life, my marriage, my sanity for a cake. Not happening." The argument continued for nearly an hour, voices echoing through the apartment. Neighbors probably thought a tornado had hit. I got insulted. I insulted back, and for a moment I wondered if anything could survive this. But I stood my ground. Finally, exhausted and shaking, I walked out, Jaden holding my hand. Astrid and Fabian shouted after me, but I didn't look back. It's been a week since the wedding, and the air still feels heavy around every family interaction. I barely spoke to Astrid after the ceremony. Every time I saw her, she gave me a tight, forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Fabian looked pleased with himself, smug like he'd somehow won by controlling the guest list and ignoring Jaden. Every small interaction felt like walking on a minefield. Jaden tried to lighten the mood at every family gathering, joking with cousins, trying to make me laugh, but I could feel the tension coiling in my chest like a steel wire. I couldn't relax. Not when every glance, every whispered comment, every sideways smirk reminded me of what Astrid and Fabian had done. That evening, my phone buzzed. It was Astrid WhatsApp. "I hope you're proud of yourself," she typed, short and cold. I stared at the message, fists tightening around the phone. My hands were shaking, but I tapped out. "I'm proud I didn't betray myself." No reply. I tried to let it go, but the next notification made my blood boil. A Facebook message from one of our mutual friends, gossiping and exaggerated. "Chelsea, people are saying you ruined Astrid's day. Some say it was selfish of you not to make the cake." I felt a rush of anger, hot and sharp, spreading through me like fire. I responded immediately. I honored my boundaries. "Don't twist it into drama you weren't involved in. I did what I had to do to protect my marriage and my dignity. Don't insult me, don't speak for me, and don't tell lies about me." There was silence for hours. hours. Then came another barrage. This time, a group chat with distant relatives I barely speak to. Chelsea, why make this about your husband? It's Astrid's wedding, not yours. I could feel my face burning, hands trembling with fury. I typed back, every word deliberate, loud in my mind, even if only text on a screen. Why are you attacking me? I made a choice to respect my life and my husband. That's not petty. That's being human. You sit there judging, pretending you know the truth, but you weren't standing there while I spent weeks planning, working, worrying, bleeding over that cake. None of you understand, and yet you feel entitled to insult me. My phone went silent again, but then my WhatsApp rang, an unknown number, but it was Fabian. He wanted to talk. I ignored it. A text followed. You're impossible. Astrid is unhappy because of you. I didn't even type back. Instead, I sent a voice message to Astrid herself. I am not the villain here. I gave you every ounce of my effort, my love, and my skill, but you chose to erase Jaden and ignore my boundaries. You made me fight for something that should have been mutual respect. You insult me. You make me out as selfish, and now everyone else is piling on because you manipulate the story. I will not be gaslight. I will not apologize for being human. I didn't know if she'd listen. I didn't expect a reply. That night, my cousin Mara called me. She'd been a mediator of sorts at family dinners. Chelsea, people are talking. They're upset about what happened at the wedding. I swallowed hard, letting the frustration and rage bubble up. Upset? Really? So I'm the problem because I refuse to erase my life for your sister's fantasy day? I get insulted, I get ignored, and now I'm the villain? Don't even try to justify this. I am done with excuses for people who think controlling me is acceptable. Mara sighed. I just wanted to warn you. Some family members, they think you overreacted. I felt my chest tighten. My voice shook, but I let it rise. Overreacted? I spent years protecting my craft, my life, my husband. You think that's overreacting? You think I should stand there while everyone decides I'm the enemy because I value myself? If that's overreacting, then yes, I'm guilty as charged, but I will not apologize for my integrity. The conversation ended, but the fire in me didn't. Every notification, every comment, every judgmental glance became fuel. For the next few days, I found myself in arguments over texts, WhatsApp, and even phone calls with people I barely cared about. Distant cousins, old family friends, acquaintances who had heard Astrid's version and felt entitled to scold me. I yelled through messages, shouted into the phone, defended myself, called them out for spreading lies, for twisting my decisions into drama, for pretending they had the moral high ground. I didn't back down. I couldn't. At one point, Jaden grabbed my hands. Chelsea, breathe. You can't fight everyone at once. I shook my head, tears streaking my cheeks. I have to. I can't let them rewrite my story. I can't let Astrid erase me and turn everyone against me. I won't be silent. I won't. And then, a breakthrough. My best friend, Lila, who had stayed quietly supportive the whole time, called. Chelsea, I see you. I see everything you've done. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. You're strong. You're right. You stood up for your life. I broke down into laughter and tears, the tension in my body finally releasing just slightly. Thank you. I needed to hear that. By the end of the week, Astrid sent another WhatsApp. Just 2 words. Fine. Whatever. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The end. Chelsea, you're not AITA. You offered your talent, your time, and your heart, and Astrid responded with disrespect. She wanted your work, not your worth, and that's not okay. You didn't refuse out of pettiness. You stood up for your marriage and your boundaries. Astrid wasn't downsizing. She was controlling. Excluding Jaden wasn't about space. It was about power. You simply refused to play along, and honestly, that's brave. Family often mistakes self-respect for selfishness, but you chose peace over performance. If I can add a quick joke, Astrid wanted the cake without the baker's backbone. Too bad you can't frost over disrespect. Final verdict, not AITA. You didn't ruin her wedding. You just stopped letting yourself be the ingredient everyone takes for granted. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for refusing to work extra shifts for a coworker who constantly lies? Imagine working tirelessly at a job you love, always showing up, always doing the work, always being dependable, only for a coworker to lie about you, manipulate everyone around you, and try to ruin your reputation, all while smiling like the sweetest person in the world. My name is Aviana. I'm 21, a senior at the University of Boston, and I work part-time at a small but busy cafe downtown. I like my job, mostly, but the people I work with can be exhausting. I'm one of the few employees who actually shows up on time, completes side work, and never bails on closing shifts. Because of that, my manager, Shlomo, always asks me to cover for someone when they call out. I usually say yes, I need the money, but it's draining. Exhaustion creeps under my skin, and yet I keep pushing because I want to be dependable, because I need to pay rent, and because I like being the person people can count on. But sometimes being dependable comes at a cost I'm not ready to pay. There's a girl I work with, Greta. She's 23 and has this charm that makes everyone think she's the sweetest person. She hugs everyone in the morning, says, "Love you, bestie," Smiles like the sun is shining just for you. But the second you look away, she's whispering behind your back, smirking, rolling her eyes at the same coworkers she hugged 10 minutes ago. She's always late, flirts shamelessly with Shlomo, and somehow never gets reprimanded. She's the kind of person who makes the break room feel like a war zone under a perfect, cheerful surface. A few weeks ago, Greta texted me last minute, asking if I could cover her Friday evening shift. She claimed she had a family emergency, though as far as I know, she lives alone. I had plans for my best friend's birthday dinner, plans made weeks ago, so I said no. She immediately sent a passive-aggressive message. Wow, must be nice to have no empathy. I could feel my face flush, hands gripping my phone. I can't cover. Enjoy your evening. I typed back, trying to keep my tone calm, neutral, but my chest burned. The following week, Shlomo pulled me aside. Aviana, Greta says you yelled at her about scheduling and called her lazy. Is that true? I froze. My mouth went dry. My hands tightened on the edge of the counter. No, that never happened, I said, voice shaking slightly. I showed him the texts, proof of the conversation. Shlomo read them carefully, his brow furrowed. I believe you, he said finally, but try to be a little more understanding next time. Don't make it personal. His words were well-meaning, but they felt hollow. Understanding? I couldn't understand a person who lied about me, tried to get me in trouble, and now smiled at me like nothing happened. 2 days later, Greta called out again. Shlomo asked me if I could cover. I clenched my jaw. No, I said firmly. We did not work it out, and I won't cover for her anymore. Period. The next morning, the tension was palpable. Greta strolled in late, coffee in hand, hair perfectly curled, and a smirk plastered on her face, as if she had won some secret battle. I was wiping down the counters when she passed by. Oh, Aviana, she said, voice dripping sweetness. So busy being so responsible. Must be exhausting being perfect. I froze for half a second, then my blood boiled. You know what's exhausting? Dealing with people like you. I snapped. My voice carried across the cafe. The other employees paused, looking up. Exhausting having to cover for you when you lie, manipulate, and flirt with the manager to avoid consequences. You're exhausting because you have no accountability. You think smiling makes you untouchable, but it doesn't. Her smile faltered for just a moment, and then she laughed, a loud, sarcastic, insincere laugh. Wow, dramatic much? You're seriously going to yell at me over a text message? Oh, I'm dramatic? I yelled back, stepping closer. Dramatic? You tried to ruin my reputation, Greta. You lied about me to Shlomo, and now everyone has to tiptoe around you because you're too fragile to face the consequences of your own actions. My voice shook, but it carried. I could see some co-workers shifting uncomfortably, sensing the storm, unsure who to side with. Everyone thinks you're difficult, she shot back, her voice sharp now. You're just impossible to work with. A total control freak. Impossible? Control freak? I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp and ringing. Control freak? Do you even know what that word means? I'm setting boundaries. I'm telling the truth. You're the one trying to manipulate the entire staff, turning colleagues against me, making me feel guilty for standing up for myself. Greta's face twisted in irritation. You're ridiculous, Aviana. Everyone is tired of your attitude. You think you're so righteous. I took a deep breath, my fists trembling at my sides. Righteous? Maybe. Maybe standing up for myself makes me righteous. Maybe not letting liars walk all over me makes me righteous. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not mine. The tension in the cafe was thick enough to cut with a knife. Shlomo hurried over, trying to intervene. Aviana, Greta, please, not in front of, don't you dare. I snapped at him, eyes blazing. This is my confrontation, Shlomo. I'm not letting her smear me anymore. I'm not taking it silently. Not now, not ever. Greta looked like she wanted to explode, and for a second, the cafe felt like it had shrunk to just the two of us. She stepped forward, voice trembling but venomous. You think everyone will side with you? Huh, you're alienating everyone. No one likes a snitchy, uptight person. I couldn't hold it in. Snitchy? Uptight. I'm protecting myself from someone who constantly lies and manipulates. If you can't see that, then you're blind, Greta. A hush fell over the cafe. Some coworkers looked shocked, some quietly nodded. A few exchanged whispers that I caught snippets of. She's right, she's right. One of them, Greta, the other coworker, finally stepped forward, shaking her head. You're making everyone uncomfortable, Aviana. Can't you just stop? I whirled on her, voice sharp as glass. Stop defending a liar? Stop standing on the side of someone who tried to get me fired? No, absolutely not. If standing up for myself makes people uncomfortable, then so be it. I will not apologize for being honest. Greta, the first one, stared at me, fury and disbelief etched across her face. You're insane. Insane. I repeated, louder. I'm not insane. I'm awake. I'm aware. I see what you're doing, and I refuse to be a pawn in your little games anymore. Call it whatever you want, but I'm done being quiet. done being erased. Shlomo finally cleared his throat, exasperated. Everyone calmed down. Aviana, Greta, we can talk later, okay? I shook my head, glaring at Greta. No, not later. Now, you need to hear this. You cannot treat me like I don't exist. You cannot lie about me and think it will go unnoticed. And if anyone else tries to defend you over truth, they'll have to face me too. She glared back, muttered something under her breath, and stalked away. The other Greta hovered awkwardly, looking unsure, and the cafe returned to its usual hum. But nothing felt normal anymore. I could feel eyes on me for the rest of the day, whispers following me wherever I went. Some were judgmental, some were clearly impressed. By the end of my shift, my hands were raw from scrubbing, my voice hoarse from yelling, and my heart thudded like a drum in my chest. But I had done it. I had spoken my truth. I had refused to be bullied. I had refused to cover for Greta ever again. It's been a week since the confrontation with Greta, and somehow things at the cafe have gotten worse. The air inside feels heavier, thicker with fake smiles and quiet judgment. Every shift feels like walking through glass. When I walk into the break room, conversations stop. When I pass by the espresso bar, laughter fades. I can feel them watching me. Greta, the others, even Shlomo pretending not to notice. Monday morning, I came in early, as usual. Greta was behind the counter, leaning against the milk fridge, pretending to be busy. Morning, I said flatly. She didn't answer. She just turned to one of our co-workers, Lila, and said loudly, "Some people don't realize that being bossy doesn't make them better workers." I stopped, my jaw clenched. "You talking about me?" I asked. Greta smiled, syrupy sweet. "Why would I be talking about you?" "Because you're the only one here who'd rather talk around people than to them." I shot back. The customers waiting for their drinks looked up. Shlomo came out from the office, frowning. "Hey, let's keep it professional," he said, like we were children fighting over crayons. "Professional? Sure." Greta giggled and whispered something to Lila, who burst out laughing. I turned, my voice rising before I could stop it. "You think it's funny? You lie about me, and now you're laughing in my face." Greta shrugged. "You're so dramatic. It's coffee, not court. That did it." "You're right," I said, stepping closer. "It's coffee, which means it's a job, which means you show up, do your work, and stop expecting everyone else to clean up your mess. You don't get to play the victim because you're lazy." Her face turned red. "Wow, Aviana, so you admit you hate me." "I admit I'm done pretending you're a decent coworker." Shlomo finally intervened, but not to defend me, of course. "Aviana, enough," he said quietly, eyes darting to the customers. "We'll talk in the back." When we did, it was the same tired conversation. "You're one of my best workers," he said, "but you need to manage your reactions better." I stared at him. "She lies about me. She insults me. She manipulates people to isolate me. And I'm the one who needs to manage my reaction." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'll talk to her." He didn't. By Wednesday, the whispers got worse. Someone, I still don't know who, started a rumor that I had thrown a cup at Greta during our argument. It wasn't true, but it spread fast. Customers even overheard bits of it. One woman asked me, half joking, "You're not the one who threw that cup, right?" I laughed, but my throat burned. That afternoon, during rush hour, Greta dropped a tray of mugs. They shattered everywhere. Instead of apologizing, she turned to me and said loudly, "Oh, sorry, guess I should have asked Aviana to cover this shift too." The cafe went silent. I slammed the tamper down on the counter. "You know what, Greta? Maybe if you showed up to your own shifts, you'd know how to hold a tray." She blinked. "You're insane." "Maybe," I snapped, "but at least I don't lie for attention." She glared. "You're jealous. That's your problem. Everyone likes me more because I'm not miserable." I felt heat rise in my chest. Jealous? Of what? Of someone who can't take responsibility for a single thing in her life? You're a grown woman who hides behind fake smiles and gossip. That's not likable. That's pathetic. Gasps rippled through the cafe. Greta's mouth fell open. "You don't talk to me like that." I leaned forward. "I just did." Shlomo came out again, shouting now. "Enough, both of you." My office. Now. We followed, still fuming. The moment the door shut, Greta started fake crying. Actual crocodile tears. "She keeps attacking me. I just want peace at work." I laughed, bitter. "Peace? You've done nothing but spread lies since the day I told you no." Shlomo looked between us. "I can't have this tension in my cafe. Someone's going to have to step back. Then maybe start with the one who lies to your face," I said. Greta sniffled. "I'm not lying. You're twisting everything." "No," I said, my voice breaking. "You twist everything. You twist people, stories, truth, and you think crying will save you. It's disgusting." Shlomo held up a hand. "Stop, both of you. I'll handle scheduling separately for now." That night, I cried in my car. Not because I was weak, but because I was angry. Angry that honesty always feels like losing when you're up against someone who lives comfortably in lies. The next day, Greta didn't show up. Rumor was, she called in sick. But her friends at work, the same ones who'd been whispering about me, glared at me like I'd killed her cat. Lila muttered, "You really love drama, huh?" I turned to her. "You think standing up for myself is drama? You should try it sometime instead of hiding behind gossip." She scoffed. "You're just mean." "No," I said evenly. "I'm just done letting people like Greta walk all over me." By the end of the week, Shlomo held a meeting. He talked about team unity and communication, but we all knew what it was really about. Everyone avoided my eyes, except Greta, who had returned, smirking again, like she'd won something invisible. After the meeting, I found her outside, smoking behind the dumpster. "You really don't stop, do you?" I said quietly. She exhaled a puff of smoke. "You should have just covered that shift. That's what all of this is about. A single shift." "It's not about the shift," she said, voice dripping with venom. "It's about you thinking you're better than everyone else." "I don't think I'm better," I said. "I just refuse to be treated like trash." She rolled her eyes. "You're exhausting. You're transparent," I said. "And I hope one day you realize how much damage you caused before pretending to be the victim again." She laughed. "You think you're the hero here? You're the joke." That was the last straw. "You know what, Greta? If being the joke means I'm not a liar, I'll take it." She flicked her cigarette at the ground and walked away. I quit 2 days later. When I handed in my notice, Shlomo looked guilty. "Aviana, you're one of the best workers I've ever had," he said quietly. "Then maybe you should have acted like it," I replied. I walked out, heart pounding but strangely light. For the first time in months, I didn't feel trapped in someone else's game. The gossip, the tension, the fake smiles, all of it stayed behind those cafe walls. I don't know what comes next. Maybe another job, maybe a break. But I do know this. I didn't back down. I didn't cover her shift, and I didn't let her win. It wasn't a clean victory. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. The end. Aviana, you are not AITA. You didn't refuse to help Greta because you were lazy or mean. You refused because you have limits and you know your worth. Covering for someone who lies, manipulates, and plays innocent while undermining you isn't just unfair, it's exhausting. Anyone who expects you to sacrifice your peace and integrity for their convenience is asking for drama at your expense. Personal insight. Standing up to a toxic coworker is rarely neat. Gossip spreads, alliances form, and suddenly you're the difficult one. Classic workplace joke. But defending your boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. By quitting, you didn't give up. You reclaimed your energy and respect. That's a victory in itself. Suggestion: seek workplaces that reward honesty, reliability, and professionalism rather than charm and manipulation. People like Greta thrive on control and perception, not reality. Keep your circle clear of that energy. Verdict: not AITA. You protected yourself, refused to let someone else rewrite your story, and walked away with dignity. Sometimes the best victory is simply keeping your integrity intact. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for finally standing up to my husband who ignores me. I've been married for 10 years, but some nights I feel like a stranger sleeping next to another stranger. We have a house, kids, jobs, the picture-perfect life everyone envies, but inside, it's empty. He's here, but he's not. I've begged, I've shouted, I've tried to make him see me, to make us feel alive again. And yet, every day, it feels like I'm fading while he scrolls on his phone, smokes, and pretends everything is fine. Until one night, the tension finally cracked, and everything I thought I knew about our marriage came crashing down. My name is Brielle. I'm 34 years old, and I've been married to my husband, Daxton, for 10 years. On paper, we look like a normal couple, a house, 2 kids, steady jobs. But inside our home, it feels like we're strangers sharing the same space. When I married him, I truly thought it would be forever. Daxton was kind, funny, and hardworking. But somewhere along the way, the light went out. We stopped laughing together, stopped talking about anything that mattered. Our days are filled with quiet routines and short, practical conversations about the kids or bills. I work full-time as an office assistant. He works at a local factory. We earn about the same, but somehow we're always short on money. Every month feels like a stretch. I do most of the housework, all the cooking, and nearly all the parenting. I wake up early, make breakfast, pack lunches, drive the kids to school, go to work, come home, clean, and then start dinner. By the time I sit down, it's already night. Daxton eats, scrolls on his phone, and goes to bed. We used to have date nights. Now we barely speak. I can't remember the last time he told me I looked nice. The silence between us has become a language of its own, heavy, tired, and endless. He smokes, a habit he promised to quit after our first child was born. He didn't. I hate the smell. It clings to his clothes, to the curtains, even to the kids' jackets. Every time I mention it, he shrugs and says, "It helps me relax." Sometimes, I wonder what would happen if I stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, stopped being the glue that keeps everything together. Would he even notice? He's not a bad man. He's just distant, detached, like he's living beside me instead of with me. For years, I've stayed because of the kids. They adore him. He plays with them, takes them to to the park and helps them with their bikes. I don't want to break that, but I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm living in service of a life that doesn't give anything back. A few months ago, my Aunt Olive decided to transfer part of her business shares to me early as an inheritance arrangement. It's not life-changing money, but it's enough that I could live independently, maybe buy a small place for me and the kids. For the first time, I could actually leave if I wanted to. Daxton knows about it. When I told him, he just nodded and said, "That's good for you." No curiosity, no warmth, nothing. That night, I sat in bed and looked at him sleeping. I realized how much of my heart I'd buried trying to keep this marriage alive. I've begged him before to be more present. I've told him I feel alone. Each time, he promises to do better, and then nothing changes. A week later, we had one of the worst fights we've ever had. It started small, about laundry. He'd left his work clothes piled on the floor again. I was tired, and I snapped. "Do you even care that I work too?" I asked. "You treat me like your maid." He didn't even look up from his phone. "You're overreacting, Brielle. It's just clothes." That word, overreacting, it set me off. "You always say that. Every time I'm upset, I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm just reacting to years of you doing nothing." He stood, his voice low but sharp. "Years of doing nothing? Who do you think pays the bills here?" "I do too," I yelled, feeling my throat tighten. "I do everything. Work, kids, meals, cleaning, everything. You think paying half the bills makes you a good husband?" He laughed bitterly. "You're unbelievable. No one else complains like you do." My hands shook. "That's because no one else is married to you." He glared at me, eyes narrowing. "You think you're perfect? You nag. You complain. You make this house miserable." I snapped. "At least I care enough to fight for it. You just smoke, scroll, and sleep." The yelling echoed through the house. One of our kids started crying upstairs. I froze. He looked at me, breathing hard, and said quietly, "You're teaching them this. You're teaching them how to ruin things." Something in me broke then. "No, Daxton," I said, voice trembling. "You're teaching them how to ignore love until it dies." He stormed out of the room, slamming the door so hard that the frames rattled. I sat at the kitchen table afterward, staring at the wall until the clock read 2 a.m. The silence that followed was worse than the shouting. The next morning, we barely spoke. He went to work early. I dropped the kids off and sat in the car crying. I felt humiliated, angry, and hollow all at once. Later that week, my Aunt Olive called. She heard my voice crack and asked if everything was all right. I told her bits and pieces, not everything, just enough. She said softly, "You don't have to stay in a house that stops feeling like home." Those words haunted me. That weekend, things escalated again. Daxton came home smelling like smoke and beer. I confronted him the moment he walked through the door. "Were you drinking after work again?" He rolled his eyes. "It's one beer, Brielle. Stop acting like I'm some kind of problem." "You are a problem," I shouted before I could stop myself. "You're the problem. I'm tired of cleaning up after a man who doesn't even look at me anymore." He dropped his keys onto the counter. "Maybe if you weren't so miserable all the time, I want to look at you." That one cut deep. My breath caught. "What did you just say?" He stared at me, unblinking. "You heard me." My anger burned straight into grief. "You're cruel, Daxton. You really are." "Maybe I'm just honest," he said. I walked past him, my chest aching, but then I turned back. "You think being cruel is honesty?" "No, it's cowardice. It's easier to insult me than admit you stopped trying years ago." For once, he didn't have a comeback. He just stared at the floor. The next morning, I didn't make breakfast. I didn't wash his clothes. I didn't say goodbye when he left for work. For the first time in years, I stopped pretending. The silence stretched for days. Even the kids started noticing. My daughter asked, "Mom, are you and Dad mad at each other?" I lied and said no. But she looked at me with eyes too old for her age, and I knew she didn't believe me. That Sunday, my aunt came over for dinner. The tension in the house was thick. She saw it immediately. At one point, she pulled me aside in the kitchen and whispered, "You look like you're fading, sweetheart." I laughed weakly. "I think I am." Later that night, Daxton accused me of turning her against him. "You talk about me behind my back, don't you?" I snapped. "No, I talk about how lonely I am because you don't care enough to ask." We yelled again, this time louder. Every word felt like a wound reopening. He said things I can't unhear, that I was cold, that I was dramatic, that maybe I like playing the victim. I told him he was selfish, lazy, and impossible to love when he made everything about himself. At one point, he shouted, "You're not the only one unhappy here, Brielle. Then why stay?" I screamed. "Why do you stay if all you do is resent me?" He hesitated for the first time. "Because of the kids," he muttered. "Then at least admit it's not for me," I said quietly. "Because I've been carrying this marriage alone." He didn't respond. He just walked out again. The decision I'd been dreading finally happened. It began on a gray evening, the kind that felt heavy before a storm. Dinner had been silent except for the sound of forks scraping plates. The kids had gone upstairs, and Daxton sat in the living room watching some show, pretending everything was fine. I was folding laundry in the corner when I said quietly, "Can we talk?" He didn't look up. "About what?" "About us." He sighed like I'd asked him to rebuild the house. "What about us?" My voice shook. "We haven't been happy for a a long time. He muted the TV, turned toward me slowly, jaw tight. So what are you saying? I'm saying I don't think this marriage is working anymore. The silence that followed was unbearable. I could hear the faint hum of the fridge and the clock ticking on the wall. Finally, he scoffed. You want a divorce because you're bored? No, I said, because I'm lonely. His voice rose. You have everything. A husband who works, a roof, kids who love you, and you're still not happy. I slammed the basket down. Because none of that matters when I feel invisible in my own home. Daxton, you don't even look at me anymore. He stood up, angry now. Oh, so now I'm the villain? You think leaving is going to fix you? I stood too, trembling. No, but staying is killing me. He shouted. You're being dramatic, Brielle. Everyone has problems. You think it's easy for me to deal with your moods every day? That broke something in me. My moods. You mean my exhaustion? My begging you to care? You smoke, you drink, you tune out, and then blame me when everything feels wrong. He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You don't know how lucky you are. Some women wish they had what you have. I stared at him, shaking. Then go find one of them. He blinked, stunned, before yelling. You've changed. You're not the woman I married. I fired back. Neither are you. The man I married had a heart. This version of you just smokes through his guilt and calls it peace. The shouting went on until the walls seemed to vibrate. Our daughter's small voice broke through from upstairs. Mommy, please stop fighting. My chest caved in. Daxton froze, looking as though he'd been slapped. He whispered, you're ruining them. That's when I snapped. No, you are. You're teaching them that silence is normal, that love means pretending, that their mother's tears are background noise. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. I sank onto the floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. The next few days were pure tension. We only spoke through the kids. At dinner, he'd eat in silence. I'd eat standing by the sink. It was unbearable. Then, out of nowhere, his sister Olive messaged me. He's not sleeping. He's scared. Please, don't make any decisions yet. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. A week later, Daxton came home early. The kids were at my aunt's house. He stood in the doorway like a man who didn't belong in his own home. Can we talk? He asked. I nodded but stayed guarded. He rubbed his hands together. I know I've been absent. I know I don't show it, but I do love you. I just don't know how to fix this. For a moment, I saw the man I married, vulnerable, tired, and small beneath the weight of everything we'd both ruined. I said quietly, you always say you'll change, but nothing ever changes. He swallowed. Then tell me what to do. I don't want you to do anything, I said. I want you to want to be here. He looked away, ashamed. I do. I just forgot how. That broke me again, softer this time. We talked for hours, really talked, until the sun rose. About the fights, the silence, the bitterness, about how neither of us had felt seen in years. There were tears, yelling again, then silence, then tears again. We decided to try therapy, for the kids, if not for us. The end. Brielle, you're not AITA. Honestly, your story reads like someone who's been quietly holding the house, the kids, and the emotional weight for years while your husband drifted into detachment. Setting boundaries and refusing to let him treat you like an invisible roommate is not dramatic. It's necessary. You realize that silence and avoidance aren't neutral. They're corrosive, and letting that continue would have hurt not just you, but your children too. Your insights about wanting independence, financial security, and emotional presence are valid. Choosing therapy and pushing for real communication shows wisdom and courage. A suggestion: continue documenting patterns, keep expectations clear, and don't let guilt drive decisions. And a joke for perspective: sometimes compromise is realizing a man can't cook, but he can at least stop pretending the laundry does itself. You acted with integrity, courage, and clarity. You didn't sweep problems under the rug or hide behind pretense. You prioritized health, self-respect, and your children's emotional safety. And that is exactly what someone in your position should do. Standing firm was not just justified, it was essential. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for cutting off my dad after he abandoned us. Click here to watch it now.